Hello and welcome back to another deck tech for Community Collective TCG. I'm Cole.
And I'm Trey.
And today we got one we are both pretty jazzed about because out of all the unique decks that have come out of set 3, this one definitely sparks the imagination the most.
Yeah, and it has a very defined theme, which is very nice that it sticks to it across everything. And pretty much is going to only use that, it feels like.
Yep, and who we're referring to is Dignitary Stauhirhaja. Cool bug man. You know, another cool put it on the shelf next to all the other cool bug bosses and Stoeirhaja we got now. But he's got a continuous on Vanguard that during your turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and you played a Scripture Order this turn, all of your front row units get plus 5k. And then he's got a once per turn auto that when he plays a normal order, or when you play a normal order, I guess, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, until end of turn, you can play an additional order this turn, but you cannot play orders other than Scripture Orders. And then when he attacks, you CB1, choose one of your rear guards for each Scripture Order you played this turn, and stand them. So ideally 2.
Yeah, ideally 2. Seeing as there's 2 going to be released, and we'll cover those in just a minute.
Yep.
But it's kind of nice that you can't play the 2 unless your opponent's grade 3. So you're not 5 attacking if you're going first. You can only 4 attack, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, they thought about it.
Yeah, they put the curse text, which we love.
Yeah, curse air quote.
Yes.
Okay, let's get this guy's ride line down.
Yep. Well, we have the grade 1 with the incorrect name here, so.
Oh yeah.
But that's all right. We have the grade 1 ride line. It's an auto. When this unit is rode upon by Venerable Gamga, the grade 2. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 grade 3 or greater card with Stauhirhaja in its name from among them, or 1 Scripture card from among them. Reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle deck. Auto rearguard circle at the end of your turn. If you played a Scripture card this turn, cost retire this unit. Choose a grade 3 or greater card with Stauhirhaja in its name, and from your drop, and put it to hand. So, just a little filtering for either the order or your main boss unit, which is nice. Persona or
that rearguard effect is actually pretty solid.
Yeah,
like if you Persona ride and then you Soul Blast out like your ride deck copy and you can get it back to hand, that's pretty good for the grade 1 of a ride line.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's something you will be running I think. The grade 2 not as much, but I definitely think the grade 1 that you run multiple of, because it's just very, very good to get those Persona rides back. And it's consistent Persona ride. If you at least get 1 additional other than your main deck, is very good. Then we have the grade 2, and when this unit is rode upon by a grade 3 with Stauhirhaja in its name, cost Soul Blast 1, search your deck for up to 1 Scripture card, reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle deck. And then also has a auto when this unit is placed on rear guard. If you played a Scripture card this turn, Soul Charge 1, and this unit gets power plus 5k until end of turn. So just another searcher for more of your orders. This one is a dedicated search, so you can always go and find one. If you have one in your hand, you can always find the second Scripture card, or find whichever one that you want to have multiple of, I guess. And it's just a little bit of a beater if you played an order.
Oh yeah, it's not too bad. And that Soul Charge is probably nice. I bet this deck probably eats through Soul a decent amount.
A decent bit. We'll see what other more souls coming up here soon. So.
Yep, and then don't forget that starter.
Oh, the banana.
Banana, yeah. But a very nice triple rare this deck is getting in this set is, oh boy, Vibaska the Overflyer. Okay, so when he's placed, you can CB1, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, get a Scripture card from that top 7, reveal it, put in your hand, and shuffle the deck. If you did not reveal a card, draw a card, and then he gets plus 5k for each Scripture order you played this turn, so ideally a crispy little 20k beater.
Yep, if it's in the front row, you're getting 5k from playing the Scripture anyways, so yeah, nice little 20k plus the additional obviously 5k per order and Persona ride, so it could be 35k beater.
That's pretty good.
which is just kind of nice. One thing this deck has done a lot of, even just between its first couple cards here, is a lot of searching. So it feels like it's going to be fairly consistent. It's kind of resource heavy, lots of counterblast and soul blast so far from but just about every card. So might be a little intensive on the resources, but gonna do a lot of power, gonna hit for a lot.
Yep, and let's see what it's spending those resources on.
First things first, we have a grade 3, the main support card of this, and this one is Heartful Pompilidio. And this one has continuous rear guard. This unit gets power plus 5k for each scripture order you played this turn. Has an auto skill front row rear guard. When your vanguard is attacked by your opponent's rear guard, retire this unit, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and decrease that unit's power by its original power until the end of turn. Just kind of an interesting shield card for a grade 3. Feel like it might become a target of retirement and fuckery.
Yeah, it's a very odd skill.
Yeah, you're reducing power. So if a grade 2 is attacking on a Persona Ride turn for 20k, you're reducing it by 10k. So very interesting. But also, anything to help knock down some power of attacks a little bit is nice.
Yeah, you're definitely running it because it's got the same skill that the grade 2 has, for getting 5k for each scripture order you played. So on a Persona Ride turn, this is going for 38 easy, which is a really good number to hit. I think the other skill is just kind of like a bonus. Just you're gonna be happy when it comes up, but
Yeah, very much so. I'm glad that I will say I'm very, very glad that front row rear guard circle is locked to the front row rear guard. Because otherwise you would just run 1 or 2 of it and put it in your back row center behind your vanguard, and pretty much make it a useless card other than for that defensive effect. So it's kind of nice that, well, first off, it has offensive pressure and defensive pressure as a grade 3, so kind of well rounded. So next we have is the 2 orders that the deck runs. The first one is Principle of Non-Selflessness. This one is play this if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Stauhirhaja in its card name, and you did not play an order with the same card name as this turn. You choose a grade 3 or less card from your drop, call it to rear guard. Until end of turn, it gets power plus 5k, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets the red text skill of auto, rear guard circle once per turn. When this unit stood by your card's ability, this unit gets critical plus 1 until end of turn. Just very good as a card.
I didn't even know it gave a thing a crit. I just read the first one oh yeah, cool, it revives a thing, but then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's a crit.
Which
okay.
Just helps add to those crazy power numbers. So if you're playing this grade 3 and you're adding an additional 5k, you're giving 5k for the front row, it could be a 43k beater.
Jesus.
On Persona Ride turn.
It's really solid.
Which is very, very solid. That's a very annoying number to try to guard. Almost a guaranteed perfect guard on a restand for an extra critical, or 3 cards from hand minimum, unless you have over trigger, but that's a different story.
Sure.
Whereas the other order that it uses is play this if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Stauhirhaja in its card name, and you did not play an order with the same card as this turn. Your opponent gets the red text skill of all your Vanguard's power is minus 3k until the end of your opponent's next turn. And if you played another scripture order this turn, cost Soul Blast 2, you may draw a card, and your opponent gets red text skill again. All of your Vanguard gets drive minus 1 until the end of your opponent's next turn. This effect is not lost even if your opponent's Vanguard was ridden. So, just very annoying.
Yeah, this was the card that when the deck was being shown off, that wow, this was the one that had the magnifying glass on it. This card by itself, kind of. If you like this card, you're gonna have so much fun with the deck and what it does as far as it's a design. But if you really hate the idea of this card, I don't know if you'll ever have fun playing against or with this deck.
Yeah. The fact that it just turns your 13k Vanguard into a 10k base is very annoying just for guarding numbers, as well as when you go back to your turn, you just lose a drive, so it's only one drive on your Vanguard. Obviously, depending if you're running grade 4s, or get additional drives, that's a different story. But it's very, very annoying, especially for decks like, just thinking here, for Vragilla, or not Vragilla, any Overlord or Varga, anything that restands and gets drives back, because it's -1 drive that entire time.
Yeah.
So, has more effects against multi-attacking Vanguards. Very, very annoying.
Just need to double check here. Nope. Okay. So yeah, playing both of these orders next to each other is just a Soul Blast 2. Like, there's no cost on the first one, and the second one also just has no cost on its -3k until you get to the Soul Blast 2. Like, this is very cheap for what it is.
Yeah, it still does require you to have both of them in hand to play them. Unlike the second one, the Principle of All Suffering does require you to actually play the other one first, then this one. So there's a requirement of having to play both of them, and you have to do it in a specific order. So it means you just can't run the All Suffering one and just get away with it for Soul Blast 2. Which is kind of nice, I think. The fact that it requires both of them rather than just being one massive order.
Yeah, like the low roll of this deck isn't like terrible, because like the low roll, if you only find like Principle of Non-Selfness, is just 4 attacks and you get to revive a thing and it can get a crit. Like, that's still good, but then getting the other one, you've hit the ceiling. Like, there's nowhere to go from here but to a 0 to 6 your opponent or something. Like,
yeah. The only problem with this is that the fact that you are playing 2 orders per turn, you are going to be running 3 or 4, probably 4 of each of these. Again, leading to similar things like we talked about with the Undercover boss, is there's a lot of cards that don't have shield in this deck.
Yep, especially since like one of the rear guards we just looked at was also a grade 3, and that card is very good as an attacker, but the fact that you need to run that card to put up some pretty good pressure is like, it adds to how top heavy the deck is. Yeah.
So I think it's fair with the amount of non-shield it has, because it does have the advantage of saying, hey, your Vanguard is minus power and minus drive, so you have a little less to stress about.
Oh, for sure.
With that, and I do like the fact that the red tech skill has this effect is not lost even if your opponent's Vanguard was ridden. I think that it's kind of nice, because like, Blagmire doesn't have that, because it's not a red tech skill, so he loses. If you delete the Vanguard, you just Persona Ride and it's fine. Where this, you lose that drive no matter what, and that power. So, just pretty gross, I think.
So. And you can do this going first. Well, I guess you couldn't, because you wouldn't be able to play 2 orders. But yeah,
which
for sure.
Makes sense as why you shouldn't be able to do that.
Well, at the very least, you can play Principle of All Suffering by itself, just to give your opponent's Vanguard the -3k. You just wouldn't get the drive -1, which, maybe that comes up. Maybe that's like actually not terrible. Like, you can do that going first, and then like when your opponent goes to their grade 3 turn, then they're a little easier to guard, I guess. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to be bad. I think it's still just better to play non-selflessness by itself, at least in my personal opinion. I also don't know how often you would really, play an order on that first turn when you're really wanting to set up for either going second. Like, if you're going first, I should say, I don't know if it's really worth losing the combo of the 2 cards.
Yeah.
That'll be something we'll see when we come to playtime. I mean, obviously, if you have to revive something and you can't build a board on your first grade 3 turn, then that's a different problem. But also, having the ability to play them in tandem, I feel like is going to be more important on your Persona Ride turn.
Oh yeah, it definitely makes the deck, I think.
For sure. So then next we have the next rear guard, and this is Purgist Chloropharas. And this one is a grade 1 that has an auto rear guard. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked or boosted cost. Put this unit into Soul. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 scripture card from among them. Reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle the deck.
Charge is great.
Just a good card. Yeah,
Just
for
really
sure.
good, yeah.
It's a Soul Charge and a Search.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Very
is a top 7, so you can whiff. But if you're running 8 of these like you probably should be, there's a good chance you hit them.
Oh yeah. Always love to see a card like this in a deck that needs certain pieces.
For sure. For sure.
Yep, and with that, we've got another addition to the lineup of control decks in the game. You know, control always in like asterisks or underlined, bold, italicized, like however you want to consider a control deck in this game. But the way it interacts with the opponent is unique enough to be considered a knowledge check. So if you guys have ever seen our like tier list video of V-Road, we always said that like any deck that is a knowledge check for the opponent usually always has a decent like innate advantage that you can capitalize on, especially in matchups where they can stand their Vanguard.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
this is it's gonna do some damage. I mean, in decks that are already having a lot of heavy casts to restand a Vanguard are losing out on that as additional resources that it needs. So, yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, and at least it can do it consistently enough. Like I think at least if you open a couple scriptures or maybe even just one in your starting hand, it's got the grade 2 in the ride line and now that grade 1 that can help search for them to have at least a semi-consistent game plan. There's probably like generic Stoeirhaja cards you could probably run too. This deck isn't exactly like xenophobic or anything, so you could put pretty much whatever in here that could help you find those orders. Like a great one would be the grade 1 double rare from set 2 that can just pitch an order from deck to drop.
Yep, I was 100% thinking that's gonna be almost a 4 of.
Oh yeah, auto include, I think.
Just because, you know, it allows you to set up the orders. So even if you have one in hand, then you know you can still play it and then enact the other one in whatever order you need to. So it's nice that it doesn't require any name locking things.
Yeah,
it's nice that there are things that help you go through it. I do think another good addition is going to be the actual gun cycler for Stoeirhaja, just because it does allow you to search for a unit or an order from drop. Does have you discard for its resource, but allows you to recuperate those orders back to hand.
Yeah, and if you like Soul Blast the grade 1 we looked at, that it checks the top 7 for scriptures, you can always like get that back and then keep digging. So there's some ways that you can play around with the build for sure. So in all that, it definitely, if you're somebody who likes to like play against certain matchups and know what your opponent's deck does way more than maybe they know what your deck would do, like this feels like it would be pretty good to play. Like I can imagine it would be very fun to bring out at locals for sure, at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see with how consistent its actual power numbers is and with the actual amount of shield that it lacks, is the word I'm going to say, how truly competitively viable it is. But I think it's going to be fun either way.
Oh yeah, it'll definitely be a deck to look out for. But with that was our deck tech on this lovely Stoeirhaja deck coming out in set 3. If you liked the video, be sure to like it and subscribe to make sure you keep up with all the fun content we push out. And if you have anything you think would be good in this deck, please let us know in the comments. But until the next one, I was Cole.
And I was Trey.
And we'll see you later.